Hello, my name is Brad Carmen, and I'm very excited to announce the release of StructEditor, a Julia package that I've been working on to try to help build applications in Julia and to make that dead simple. So the way it works is the underlying data of your application is defined with Julia structs. So we have here just a very simple example where we define an enumeration, a person type. We just define a nice display for that type. We put it all into a team type, and then let's just go ahead and create a team, and with one line of code we can generate a application that allows us to edit that underlying data. So you can see, of course, for strings we can have an edit box, and for vectors it's easy to be able to add and remove elements, and we can edit the underlying data in that of each of the vector elements. So very cool. As you can see, this is utilizing Bonito, the absolutely fantastic package from Simon Danish, and this is a really cool start. So as you can see, any standard Julia types are supported. If you have a custom type, then it is possible to also define a editor control for each of your custom types. So at this point, there isn't really all that much going on with the data. Like, we might want to be able to save and load data. So that is, of course, possible. We simply just need to tell the editor function about what file we'd like to save to. So if we create a save function type, we can feed that to the editor, and then we will be able to have a save button. So any changes that we make, so if we add, for example, add myself to the list here, then we can now save it. And that is going to create a JSON file, and you can see that all the data there is saved. And of course we can also retrieve that. So if we call the editor with the file and the type, then we can get right back to that data that we had. And we're also able to just call the viewer function if we want to just have a static view of the data as well. So that's very cool. That's a great foundation for building an application, but if you want to be able to do something more advanced, that is of course possible. And to do that, to demonstrate that, what we'll do is add a so if we go back to the editor, let's say we want to be able to add a plot that shows how shows the gender distribution of our people in our team. So one thing to note is that what's making all of this possible is the fantastic package from Simon Danish called Bonito. And Bonito, coming from Simon, of course, works in conjunction with Maki. So any observables, any types that are able to accept observables are all able to be live updating in these applications. So what we can do is we can easily define a pie chart from WGL Maki, and that is going to be live updating in our application. So the way this works in StructEditor, if you want to define, customize a control, you can overload the make control function. And there's two flavors to this. There is a we can define based on the field name of the struct. So in this case, we have people is the field name. So we can dispatch on that, or we can also call the version of this where we dispatch on the type. So make a generic control that would dispatch for all strings or all numbers, etc. So what we can do is call that general type first to get the vector of people generated, and then we can build our plot, and what we always return for the make control a vector of items. So if there's just one control, then there's just one item there. But if we want to add a plot or add some buttons or some additional information, we can just add those to the list. Okay, so let's take a look at how this works. So let's go ahead and make sure we load Maki. And now when we call editor, you'll see that we get a nice plot that's showing the distribution. And if we go ahead and add, let's go ahead and add my dog to the team, Ellie. And she's female. And you can see we immediately get an update to our plot because it's taking an observable of this list, so it can be live updating. And then we can go ahead and save. Final note is that these apps can be web-based, so it's very simple to do. Using Bonito, we can generate a server, and we can feed that server to the editor function, and we can give it a path, icon, and title. And as long as we set the mode to online, then we can also build this as a web app. So we can see that we get the same application here in the web. Full disclosure, I do work for Julia Hub, and I have been using this in conjunction with the Julia Hub applications, and this works fantastic, I will note. Okay, one other fun thing that I've been able to do with StructEditor that I'd really like to highlight. So one of the other things that I work on is Modeling Toolkit, and I have also going to be announcing the release of Modeling Toolkit Parameters shortly, which is a package that allows you to build a structure of your parameters of your model for easy editing. So let's say we have this active suspension model. If we go ahead and let's just go ahead and solve that, and we can see this is the results of the model showing the position of each of the elements of the model. So we have a road, we have the wheel position, the body position of the car, and finally the seat position. So this is an active suspension model. The idea is we want to get the seat to not do this, right? This is going to be a very uncomfortable ride for the driver, and that's the idea, is we want to build a controller that can smooth this out automatically. And what the Modeling Toolkit Parameters gives us is the ability to build a structure of the parameters, so we can have this parameter object that allows us to visualize what the parameters are in a tree form and also edit them. And so what we did here was we just increased the controller gain, and when we go ahead and solve that, we can go ahead and see that the controller is doing its job. Right, this is a much more comfortable ride now. And we can go ahead and increase it even further. So now we're going to adjust it to 200, and we can see it's getting even better. So that's great, but what we could do, it's even greater, is we can actually use StructEditor. So there is a extension built into Modeling Toolkit Parameters that turns this into an actual application. So if we feed the problem and parameters to the editor along with the IDs that we want to plot, then we can recreate this whole scenario all in one application. So you can see that because the parameters are now a struct, we now get this nice UI to be able to edit all the parameters, and we can go ahead and kind of do exactly what I was just showing, but live in an application. So if we put the gain of the PID to 0, that essentially turns the controller off. And when we simulate that, we can see that the driver is not having a very good time. And then we can go ahead and do a quick iteration. And let me, sorry. One problem here is that if you click the back button, it thinks that I want to go back in the plots. So, okay, there we go. So now we've got our controller set to a reasonable gain, and when we run it, we can see that we get a better result. So yeah, this is a nice way to quickly iterate on your models and be able to get some quick feedback. And then in the end, you should be able to save your results. So hope everyone finds this interesting and useful. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you'd like to see some enhancements or changes, or you want to just discuss some ideas. I'm very happy with how this all turned out, and would love nothing more to see it being used out in the community. All right, thank you.